Hey, so I wanted to talk about how letting go of the labels actually you can build better boundaries and you can feel freer and more at peace because I was having a conversation today with a financial advisor who's also divorced and has a pretty tumultuous relationship with the ex and everything. But I had just gotten a message from one of the members with just, about the co-parenting relationship. And there were lots of labels and she's this and she's controlling and she's that and she's this and she's that. And I had said to, there's this whole sense in the divorce community right now. There's just this sense of like glomming on to labels. And if you probably know which label I'm talking about, it's the narcissist label. And I'm kind of one of the few not jumping on that bandwagon. And there's a multitude of reasons for that, why I feel like that is more harmful than helpful, for many, many reasons. And one of the reasons is when we start labeling our co-parent, we start labeling our ex, we build up a filter and we stop seeing pathways to communication. We stop seeing pathways for opportunities, okay? Because here's the truth, y'all. Here's the truth. This person, whether you like it or not, is the parent of your children and they're going to be in your life. And so if you can have a better attitude about it and be more respectful and take the high road at all times, it's going to be better for your kids. And this person is in your life forever. So rather than labeling them and you becoming a victim of them, because that's the thing, so many people get caught up in being the victim and seeing all the wrongdoings that their ex is doing and all the mistakes that they're making and everything that they do is wrong, right? But here's the truth. Like, they might just have a different perspective. They may have different priorities for certain things, and they may see things from a different perspective, just like you see things from a different perspective. And so it may not be a matter of right versus wrong. It just could be a matter of like, we have different perspectives, we have different viewpoints on this. How can we come together for the best interests of our children? Because I think so many people lose sight of that during divorce. And listen, there is such a thing as the reticular activation system. So whatever you focus on, that's what you're going to get more of. Everything that you focus on, all the negative things that your ex does, all the mistakes that they make, every time you see a controlling behavior and you're just adding it up in your mind, the more you do that, the more your brain tends to see it and the more you focus on it and the more you create, because you're creating that. And the biggest thing is to let go of those labels and let go of that filter, because when you pigeonhole someone into that, how they're going to interact with you is also going to be shifted. So just kind of put yourself in the place where you have been judged, where like you've walked into a relationship, a scenario where someone thinks very poorly of you, or they judge you, or they have a label of you, right? They don't like you, whatever that is. How do you behave in that situation? How do you react in that situation? Because I guarantee you that's how your ex is acting too. If you've labeled them and you're judging them and they know you're hoping that they'll make mistakes so you can hop on it and da-da-da-da-da and all that stuff. So one thing is, if you're doing that, if you're holding on to those labels and judgments, that person is going to be very defensive. They're not going to be open to what you have to say. They're not going to be, able to hear you. They're not going to be in that listening mode. They're going to be defensive. And chances are, you telling them what to do, they feel very controlled. And when people feel controlled, they tend to rebel and just do the opposite, even if they agree with you. So it's really important that you let go of those filters and let go of those labels and see things from an open viewpoint and allow what is. And I was talking about my client who Really, honestly, I don't use labels, but if there was a very high conflict person, this person would just like be up there for sure. His ex would be very much in that realm of like, oh, she's pretty volatile. This is pretty difficult. Like, yes, so you've got support, you've got help here. And so what he and I did together, my client and I did together, was, again, we never looked at those labels as a way to prevent us from moving forward. Our goal, his goal, is to create a new co-parenting relationship, because the truth is, the mom's in his son's life forever. We've got to work through this. We've got to manage through this. We've got to create a new dynamic. And so rather than him being a victim of her and focusing on every shitty thing that she did and every controlling thing that she did, look, our goal was to look for opportunities for communication, patterns, that would create a better relationship, because one of the things is looking for patterns of like, okay, what triggers her? What are her hot button issues? And then how do we respond that keeps the communication going, that keeps things moving forward rather than stopping it? So looking for patterns and identifying patterns is a key strategy. And letting go of the filters and letting go of, any of that negativity in the past so that we can move forward. The irony is like, I've spoken with him recently, because this was a while ago. And the irony is, through letting go and accepting who she was and not really getting caught up in the labels, because the other thing about the labels and stuff is that it keeps you tethered to that person. That person's a narcissist, I'm a victim. And it keeps you tethered to that person. That person's always gaslighting me, right? You're always the victim of that person. But if you let go of those labels and you release that, the interesting thing is you actually create better boundaries. You create more acceptance, but also you create that spaciousness in the relationship. You're no longer tethered to that person energetically. And I spoke with him like very recently, because this is like an old client of mine. And I was like, shit, he's like got really great boundaries, whereas before he was constantly walking on eggshells, seeking her approval. And I almost noticed there was just an energetic shift around that. Like, his attitude was like, whatever, she doesn't bother me anymore. It's just so much more neutral. It's just so much more, he just felt at peace. And the boundaries were there now because he created this shift and let go so much. What she did was what she did with their son. What he did was what he did. And there was actually less contact between them. And I think the less contact became because of the patterns and identifying his triggers and identifying her triggers and knowing when to respond and when not to respond and having that spaciousness. So those boundaries also shifted kind of automatically from that dynamic too, because again, he had released that energetic tether between them and he wasn't a victim of her anymore. He just had let that go, and just seeing him kind of walk into that power and walk into this new sense of confidence and security again. It was like amazing. So if you want some help creating a new co-parenting relationship, a more respectful, a more peaceful co-parenting relationship, trust me, it's possible. I can do it, you can do it. Again, my divorce was not, wonderful, none of that good stuff. It was high conflict all the way, and yet we've managed to completely shift that around and have an amazing co-parenting supportive relationship. And it's not always possible, or is it always healthy in every divorce? Sometimes having that, hey, you do your thing, I'll do my thing, having lots and lots of boundaries is healthy as well. But definitely finding peace again, and definitely getting some communication skills to be able to deal with the difficult person is so very possible. And you'd be surprised at how that difficult person all of a suddenly becomes easy. Like my client, all of a sudden his high conflict is pretty easy to deal with now. So I think it's so possible if you know the right tools and you know the patterns and you have the right strategies. Totally doable, totally possible. So if you want to find out how, I'm happy to set up a session with you and we can talk about the specific strategies that you need for your co-parenting relationship and your ex and difficult ex. So, all right, I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Just hashtag yes below and I will reach out. Bye.